like 12 to 18 months working head in,
Yeah.
working with auditors and attorneys from all over regulatory attorneys, DIC, Federal Reserve.
And this was like attorneys for enterprise or just to
Nope.
understand sort of
No.
the environment?
Like, I was, like, cold calling these
Ah,
people and, like, "Can I pick your brain? Can I traveling just to meet with
yeah.
them for an hour?" And realize, like, "Oh, there's, like, something much bigger here." Organically through being involved and then learning myself and then being able to educate, we
Yep.
became essentially like the property management bank. What's interesting that I don't think a lot of people understand is it wasn't necessarily just in the property management industry we
Yeah.
became the property management bank.
Yeah.
It was the banking industry as well.
Here we are on the propertymanagement.com unfiltered podcast. Really special guest today. I think most people watching this probably already know you. Talking to Allison DiSarro with Enterprise Bank and Trust. Allison, how's it going?
Hey, good, very good. I'm
So
excited to be here.
in New Orleans, have you been before?
So I've never been to New Orleans. Unpopular opinion. I was pleasantly surprised. I came with a little bit of different idea, but
Yeah.
no, so far great. Yeah, we
I
did the crane cruise last night.
How was that? What
So
I think I
fun.
saw you across the room a
I
bit, but it
know
was like
it
kind of
was
levels,
packed. It was like a packed cruise though. No, it was so great. First of all, I love crane anyway, but the cruise is just like it was nice to just kind of like separate from everything
Yep.
else. It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So New Orleans, I haven't been either. I feel like I don't have like a pulse on it yet. Like the culture, like is in Indianapolis, the downtown is, I don't know, it's just like condos and high rises. And then like we're sort of downtown in this Airbnb and it's like this, like, I don't know, almost feels like a resort style oasis, but
Yeah.
it looks like a commercial building in the front. I don't know. It smells weird here, but also is like really cool and the food's good. I don't know.
I know. Okay, so the food's good, but I'll also say that's like the funny thing about being at a conference is like you could be anywhere. I'm really stuck in a hotel all day long. I
Yeah.
actually have no
Yeah.
idea which like area of New Orleans I'm actually staying
Yeah,
in.
that's true. Yeah, I'll have to come back and visit more as like a tourist, less
Yeah.
the broker owner and the work side of things. But well, for those that don't know, give a little bit of background on yourself. I always like to preface this. Really, I took this from Dylan Scroggins, where he always talks about like no one grew up and said, "Hey, I want to be in property management," and that's usually
Gotcha.
for like our property management, operators. But I'm sure for you, it's like you're everything property management. So how do you get into this, and sort of what's your backstory?
Okay, I'll really try and give you the what is it called? The TLDR. I really have zero background in banking prior to enterprise. I mean, granted, well, we were a different bank then, but by way of acquisition enterprise.
Yeah.
Granted, I had a little bit of like, I had worked in a financial industry with wealth management. I had even been like a bartender for years, right? Like at the end of the day, the background really came from like the business development of it all. But banking is a very difficult thing to learn and master. So,
Yeah.
it's not like I came in with all the expertise. Time and understanding and all that brought me there. But yeah, so I essentially got the job for probably all the wrong reasons. Won't lie. Back in like 2010, a completely different context. Like, hey, come in and just bring in some deposits wherever you can, which is, to be honest, how, if you know the banking industry, that's how most salespeople are in banks.
Right.
Like, they're like, just cast a net and get what you can get.
I remember I was doing like real estate, started kind of like wholesaling, then we started buying. And I remember I came into my local bank in Indianapolis and I came in with like the funds for the acquisition. It was like $130,000 check. I don't know
Yeah.
why I wasn't
Yeah.
wiring it. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I just remember the teller
It's a
kind of
long time
looking
ago.
up and then you see like the private banker kind of like perks up and it's like, oh, we've got deposits here. Like, who is
Yes.
this? Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about deposits.
It is all about deposits. That's a whole other conversation, I feel like, about like why that's important to a bank and what you should know as a consumer about that. But at the end
Right.
of the day, yes, at that time, it was all about deposits, like get us what you can get. And because of the way the bank was structured without bringing you too far down a rabbit hole, essentially, like our success was going to be based off of what we can do with those funds specifically at that time. It was really like we were trying to be at that time a very, very heavily involved SBA lender.
Right.
And you can only do that if you have the deposit. So it's really about are those deposits sticking? That's
Right.
really what it came down to. And that's how, long story short, essentially, like we worked with some property managers. I had a little bit of background in that area on financial related.
Well, at that time, so when you started, how far along was Enterprise in terms of the property management like vertical?
So we
Was it
were
already established or was it sort of
no.
very early?
Yeah, totally. In full disclosure, it was a bank called Seacoast Commerce Bank.
Okay.
It was like a bank headquartered out of San Diego, small bank, less than $1 billion in assets, in total assets, which is small. They had some property management clients for the same reason the bank down the street who doesn't even know what
Yep.
property
Yep.
management is
You
has some
walk in,
property
you're like,
management
what's
clients.
triple
Yeah.
tide trust accounting? They're
Yeah,
like,
exactly. They're like,
three
oh,
heads. You're like, what are you talking about?
and then they're like, okay, just open up a bank account. And so no, we had that. And it really, again, without any banking background, I actually started very tunnel focused because like I didn't know any of the other background around it.
Yep.
So essentially they were just drilling down, for lack of a better word. We need those sticky deposits. And I did know how a property management company worked in
Right.
terms of like security deposits and holding those funds just because of because of like a 6-month period that I had of working for a property management company.
Yeah, you manage a few hundred properties and you have the owner
Yeah.
reserves and it
You're
just
like,
like
"Oh, that
sits
money
there.
sits."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of look at your, it's kind of embarrassing, but when I first started the property management business, like we wanted to do all the things the right way, but we went into, I think we were working with like just Chase Bank.
Yeah.
And we walked in and we were like, hey, we want to set up, I think we're supposed to do it this way. Who can we talk to about getting this set up properly? They like tried to help, but I don't think we fully set it up like we had 3 accounts, but I don't think it was actually done the
I
right
can tell
way.
you 1000% certainty it was
It was
not. Just knowing
and
what you just told me
yeah.
now, no.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was just like, we
Yeah.
log into our Chase account and it's like we look at this large sum of money that we know we aren't supposed to touch and have to match it and all that. There's just no sophistication there. And I feel like that's obviously the problem that enterprise is solving. And I mean, let's start with just enterprise in general. At that time, you were sounds like just getting started. Like,
Yeah.
how have you went from point A to point B? I guess in your
Yeah.
career, but also along for the ride, just enterprise in general.
So with that time though, just knew like I just honestly again, like most bankers out there who are trying to get into the property management space, I've
Yeah.
learned over the last 16 years, like just was doing at that time the same. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out and try and meet with some property management companies. But it was so banking forward and
Yeah.
that worked, but not just, organic sales. But I realized pretty quickly through a lot of conversation, I wasn't like involved in the industry. I wasn't in NARPM. I wasn't in all those things. I was just
Yeah.
talking to cold calling property management companies. I learned pretty
I won't
quickly.
put you on the spot about that. I almost
Yeah.
like want to roll call or role play what like that cold call was
Oh
like.
my-
But it was because at that time you're probably like, what's the hook?
It's a
Right?
lot of
They're like banking. I have a bank like down the street. What are you talking about?
Exactly. But I did learn like everyone wants our bit. Someone had made the comment. I'll never forget who it was. It was a woman named Jennifer Newton out of San Diego, and she had made the comment of, you know, everyone wants our business, but no one knows how to bank it because she was so involved in the Department of Real Estate. So I took that. I was like, okay, let me figure out what she's talking about, what the missing pieces are. Spent the first bucket of time essentially talking to auditors and in California. We were headquartered in California at the time. And
So the compliance was a lot more.
yeah, it was about the compliance. But then it snowballed into realizing like this is just state compliance. That actually means nothing, to be honest, when you talk about actual fiduciary held accounts. And so I had to spend, don't quote me on this time, but probably like 12 to 18 months working working with auditors and attorneys from all over regulatory attorneys, DIC, Federal Reserve.
And this was like attorneys for enterprise or just to
Nope.
understand sort of the environment?
Like I was like cold calling these people and like, can I pick your brain? Can I traveling just to meet with them for an hour?
We didn't have Claude back then. So it was like, you had to
I had a
like,
lot
talk
of
to real
time on my
people.
hand, a
Just
lot of
talk
time.
to your,
Totally. I
AI.
had a lot of time. I had lots of traveling and realized like, oh, there's like something much bigger here. Organically through being involved and then learning myself and then being able to educate, we became essentially like the property management bank. What's interesting that I don't think a lot of people understand is it wasn't necessarily just in the property management industry we became the property management bank.
Yeah.
It was the banking industry as well.
Interesting.
We have our own
And no one
compliance.
had no other bank at the time had connected the sort of the ripe environment of stickiness of deposits, large sums.
No, I mean, that is like a round bank. That is like a general around bank. Like people knew like you need to do it. Now, I mean, I can't even tell you how many banks have come in and out over the last 16 years that like get the value.
Right.
But there's one of two core reasons they essentially back out. One, they couldn't consistently perform enough to like get a solid reputation going, to just invest in that business.
Well, because from what I understand, like you're competing at that time, going from 0 to 1, you're competing with the local, real estate guy or gal in town. That's like, you walk into the local bank and they're like, hey, Jim, how's it going? Like, like
Yeah,
you're almost like a star there, but it's like they also don't understand your business. It's so the relationship matters, but it's like there's something missing. And then all of a sudden you guys filled the gap of what was missing.
yeah,
And that actually mattered a lot more than the feel good of the teller saying, hey, Jim, it's like,
definitely.
right.
Like, there has to be consistency. So, like, that's the thing around, like, for me, like, we have honestly, it's almost unheard of how high performing our sales team, our production team is on the property management side. And I know that, like, across
Yeah.
it's unheard of
Yeah.
how organically successful we are. We don't, because I think we lead from, sure, there's sales, but there's relationship management. We're actually called relationship managers, not even called
Right.
salespeople.
Yeah. One of my best friends is, I think he has your same title. It's like
Yeah.
relation.
Oh, really?
We were like driving on vacation in the car. We were like driving down to Florida from Indianapolis, and he had a couple client calls, and he was basically just, I felt like, I don't know if this is like for
Yeah.
you, but so it was just him. Felt like he was sort of the deal therapist where he was just
Oh my
like,
God.
I got
Yeah.
this thing. And he's like, it's okay. He's just kind of shooting the shit a little
Yeah.
bit. And then they hang up. He's like, is that guy good? He's like, oh yeah, we're all good now. Like
Yeah.
he just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of talk and be heard.
Hey, you
Right.
just want to know, like, you're there when I need you. Even like from logistically, from like the benefits or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
that has always been the thing that there's no bait and switch. And that bait and switch actually with banks, because of the way that banks can logistically produce the benefit that they're promising.
Yeah.
That's we should
Like
do
what?
like bankers 101 here. But
Like, what could that bait and switch be? Like, what would be
let's
the
say,
people doing it the wrong way, like no names or
mhm,
whatever, but like,
yeah, 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 no,
what
of
what would that
course.
be?
Okay, so let's give you an example of rates, right? We talk a lot about the earnings credits,
Yep.
right? This is like the easiest
People
one to
love the
approach.
credits.
People love the credits, but like this is like the easiest approach to really explain to like consumer. So the best way to think about a bank when it comes to deposits is deposits are the bank's inventory. So you have to, but you're regulated institution. And also the larger you are and the longer you've been around, the more scrutinized you are by
Right.
regulators, which is good. That's
Yep.
a great thing,
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot
That
of
means you're
alignments
set up
there.
for
Yeah. I've
success. It
watched The
means
Big Short.
and the more you are audited too. It's not like you're
Right.
just, but you have to take those deposits, that inventory, and you have to, from a balanced metrics, you have to do something with them. That's the easiest way to do it. So you have to either invest or lend. Really, you should mostly be lending, but for that, there is an investment portion of it as well.
Okay.
But all this has to be done around safety, right? So, like, I will only mention this bank because they went under, right? So
Okay.
let's reference Silicon Valley Bank as like a
Okay.
story
Yeah,
to
I think
explain this.
that's relevant. I've seen those headlines. Yeah.
Exactly. And I would never mention it if they hadn't
Yeah, of
already.
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So let's think about them. So they had all these like large deposits that they got from
Right.
essentially one bucket of customers, right?
Right.
VC. And they had to do something with them. So because their customer base was the customer base that it was, they were making loans, but they were making unsecured, unsafe
Yep.
loans.
Yep.
And then they took the rest and they put it in unsecure, or I'm sorry, unsafe, for the most part, investments, right? Because they had to essentially panic, because you can't just sit on, that's how the
Right.
regulations work. You can't just sit on the deposits and say, I think I'm going to take my time and think about what to do with these. It always has to be balanced.
Right.
So all of this, and I understand this is not Bankers 101, this podcast,
No,
but like,
it's fascinating.
but that's why it's you should, we never expect, another industry to understand how our industry works, but it is so different than other businesses or industries,
Right.
that like you have to kind of understand the bank as a whole and what they're doing. We're not expecting you to read call reports. That's not what we're saying. But like, just because we have this one flashy thing, one flashy thing can only consistently be delivered, for
If you're
16
if
years
you're
if
operating,
we're operating at full capacity.
that's honestly, that's really good clarity for me. Like, I studied finance
Yeah.
and but it's like banking is sort of like, for example, like accounting. I hated accounting, but I kind of like the analysis side. And so I think a lot of property managers that are successful are in the details, sort of like very detail driven operational people. But it's like they only get the headspace for a certain amount of things, and I don't think they like typically go deep in banking. But I've never made that
Or should
connection of
they?
like, in my head, I guess I thought like banks are banks. They just like all do the same thing, but no, like you can, like Silicon Valley Bank, like you
Yeah.
can fail, you can do things the wrong way. And if you're specializing in an industry like property management, like people aren't thinking about, hey, how does enterprise operate? But
Yeah.
that sounds important
And like,
to allow for the credits to even happen, right?
exactly. That's the thing. Like, yes, we can talk about why that makes your investment safe or whatever. We can talk about that. But like, that's actually I understand. Like, let's talk about the agenda that they have. Their
Yep.
agenda, for instance, in this scenario, is to make money. Okay, you can make money today. That's not really most important. Are you going to make that money moving forward over the next, forget about 1 year? Not much changes in 1 year, but like after that,
Yep.
right? And what could you have made a couple years ago, right? So, like, all of that is important to think about because that goes back to like, even like, I was just leading a session on relationship building or maintaining relationships instead of just focusing on the current sale because that
Yep.
creates a lot more recurring
We're
revenue
going to
for
talk
you.
about specific data points in a bit about
Okay.
that. It
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me that was the topic you were focused on.
But like that's the reason. It's like consistency is key.
Right.
Certainly there are things that impact, okay, a banking institution of like why, it might not be, the rate might not be, but like the benefit has to still be there.
Right.
Right. And like, so you cannot go into it saying it's not about, basically what I'm trying to say is it's not about today. It's about the longevity. It's about
Right.
the bigger picture.
Well, let's talk about the bigger picture. Like
Yeah.
where, I think you laid a really good framework, kind of groundwork for like, all right, how did you get into this enterprise, kind of where they've went? How is enterprise as a company? How are you, Allison, thinking about the future in property management? It's a weird world right now, just in general. Here, not only just because we're in New Orleans and never been here before, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird
Yeah.
place. It's like you've got AI always top of mind. And I think 2 years ago, somebody brings up AI, and everybody was like, "I know we should be talking about, but I don't even really know what I'm talking about." Now
Totally.
people are starting to really use it and understand some of the applications. And so, like, does any of that buzz sort of apply in banking? Or, talk me through that.
Yeah.
Just how is your company thinking about the future?
Okay, this is actually, and this is also a lot opinion based too,
Yep.
right? But what I will say is that, like, yes, perfect example of what you just gave. Like, for the last couple of years, people have been talking about. Interestingly enough, I don't think people have necessarily been talking about AI for the last couple of years too much. I think they've just been talking about technology in general,
Right.
like, right? Like integrations, right? And
Yep.
integration, the term integration means something different to everybody, but
Yep. Yeah,
uh,
an API is not an integration.
ex- exactly. It's like, well, what does it mean, and what do you
a
get
tomato,
out of
tomato,
it? Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. I think that right now, though, the stage that we're in now, not we, but like the world right now,
Right.
are in around AI is now the guinea pig phase. We're in like the beta testing phase
Yep.
almost, right? And I think that there are, my opinion is that absolutely that's where the world's going. Take us out of our industries for a minute.
Right.
That's where the world's going
Yeah.
for sure. I think that I kind of reference it back to like the Y2K crisis a little bit, right? Like the fear around that. Like,
Yeah.
I s I think that there will be, let me put it this way, someone recently said this to me, and this is the best way I think, and I'm gonna just try and regurgitate their
Yep.
line, but essentially, there are buckets right now, right? There is the bucket when it comes to AI. There is the bucket of people, and this is probably the smaller bucket, interestingly enough, of people that are like, "We're gonna dive in head first,
Talked to a lot of those folks. They
guinea
always bring it
pig
up.
the hell out of it,
Yep.
and do anything we can to try and make the AI piece work. It's so
Right.
exciting. We're hyper focusing on
Right.
it.
We could call them like the vibe coders because they get in there
100%.
after
Yeah, yeah,
it and
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
make it happen. Yeah.
Hyper focus. And then there's the largest bucket is the people who are like, we're gonna sit back and let the other people figure it out, and
Right.
then we'll get in. And maybe that means that we also have to lean on other resources. We will take pieces of it for ourselves, but there also might be other companies. Like we have to lean into those companies to
Right.
provide it.
Right.
Even those companies are still essentially in this is my term, but like in that beta testing phase, even though
Right.
they've implemented it, they're still technically beta
So,
testing.
so it's sort of like, especially coming from the banking perspective, where you just talked about like a bank, Silicon Valley Bank, that took a lot of risk and that was bad, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not around anymore, right? So it sounds like you want the experts that are the AI experts to sort of like figure that out and then see how that affects enterprise rather than taking some like risky
100.
position.
Who are the experts today too? That's the other thing. It's so new. Like who is actually the expert?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And how have they proven to you that they're the expert? That's
Right.
the other thing.
Well,
And
everybody's sort of plugged into the same like frontier models that you're rarely talking to someone they might do something clever with, just like abundant opportunity, ultimate creativity. But yeah, everybody's kind of plugged into the same models, trying to figure it out in the same way.
yeah.
So
And I just think here's the thing about I always put myself in the equations, right? Always. So like, is it a need? Where should you be applying it and where should you not be applying it today? Does that change?
Yep.
That could change in 1 year. That could continue to expand. But today, where should it be applied? And if you want to apply it into places where it's not necessarily tested and proven, like for instance, banking,
Yep.
there's a reason why 1,000-year-old institutions, meaning like a group of an association of banks, why they haven't opened up their AI, haven't leaned into the AI externally for clients and
Right.
payment processing. There's a reason why. And so why wouldn't you instead say, we're going to keep finances? So finance is the backbone of everything. So like,
Right.
why wouldn't you instead trust a bank that says, we're not going to pretend that we're the AI experts. We're not going to figure it out as we go. Instead,
Right.
we're going to open up. We're not going to open up to the whole world. We're going to open up to these SaaS companies
Right.
who are implementing in the closest thing to professionals to AI, and open up to them so that you can live there instead of your banking, live in there
That sounds
and
very
let
integration
them
focused,
do the
maybe?
AI. Yeah,
Maybe a little, I think that's
but deeper, embedded. Yeah.
embedded. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. That
Yeah.
sounds very exciting. Well, let's talk. I mean, when I think about something being embedded in the platform that a property manager is using, it's really I think it's an accessibility thing, right? They want to have access to their information. They want less logins. They want that like ease. Cause I think that's where AI, people kind of chase the rabbit a little bit or go down the rabbit hole in some of these AI solutions. And then they realize they didn't really solve anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, every property manager has the problem of like all these logins and like just how can you simplify all these like chaotic systems? And it sounds like that's a way that a
Yeah.
property manager could do that, right?
You lean into, so yes, that does that mean your bank has to, so integrations already exist, meaning
Right.
like let's think about like, let's talk about enterprise. Already integrated with the softwares. When you do an API integration, you can only get what's available to you,
Right.
right? And there are some things that are closed off. There's a reason why PMSs close off a lot of the accounting pieces,
And
right?
wait,
And
and
so
what are some of those systems that like is Enterprise connected to like pretty much all the major platforms, or is it sort of a
Mhm.
kind of different based on their
Based on their
ability to
ability,
connect, right?
based on their ability and their, what should I say, their desire, meaning not desire to connect, but desire of what you have access to.
Oh,
Meaning, like, think about like property. It's no secret these property management companies, and listen, I've sat on board of a lot of these PMS. I
right.
understand like the revenue stream comes directly from payment revenue. That is their
That's right.
highest thing. So like they're not going to say, "Hey, you take our payments, like you process the payment and take away our payment revenue," right? So like that might be
Right.
something that they close, right? But for the most part, the operational pieces, real-time accounting, positive pay, internal
Yep.
transfers. Internal transfers is not the same as payments, right? So like internal payments, profit first, bookkeeping, all of that, right? If you can, instead of being in your bank, be in your PMS
Right.
and then allow the AI to come from the PMS.
Right. I mean, there's been time when I was running my property management business, my business partner did a lot of the day-to-day operations and I was like more sales, like strategic focused. And there'd be times where I'd be like, shoot, I literally forget my login. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
like I
yeah,
hadn't, I hadn't been in the bank
yeah.
account and it's like maybe we changed it because we were
Mhm.
rotating passwords or something. Like I just like didn't remember the login.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just sounds like such a silly little thing, but it's, to be able to work in one place, like where you're already working, I think is no one would not want that, right?
Well,
Everyone would want
exactly.
that
Yeah.
ease of use, right?
But then also like the things that you want and then the ancillary things that you want for your business, that's being provided by, to your point, the closest thing to the professionals you can get.
Right.
I mean, like I'll tell you right now, and forget about property management and the banking industry, one of the biggest trending, like current issues that are driving financial institutions and bankers and regulators to look at is like can I say this right? Anthropic, like
Yeah.
Anthropic. So like, can you imagine how scary that is if we just had an open API and then Anthropic just takes over the whole financial institution, right?
Well,
So there's a lot to
well,
think
I mean,
about
that's a
there.
great example. So we could get our head of engineering, Oscar, in here, and he'd probably go off on a whole thing about this because it's all about security. And especially as a property manager, right? As a property manager, what we do in AI is it currently legally, unless something's changed since I looked at this like a week ago, if you do something and then like AI takes action with like personal info or fair housing fair housing is the best example. Like if you've got an AI chat that's like breaking fair housing and like you set that up, like you have that's an extension of your liability, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're taking just like if you're downloading like a CSV of a bunch of personal and identifiable info and you drop it into just like the AI directly or even via an API, I mean, you're basically just pumping that data into the system. There's secure ways to do that, and that's a great example of like why a bank
Yeah.
in this property management industry with a lot of the regulation and compliance, like like if you came on here and were like, we got some wild AI stuff we're about to roll out, I'd be like, whoa, hold on, that
Yeah. Like,
sounds risky. I don't want my banker to be risky.
but that's exactly my point. Like
Yeah.
you want to lean it. So for for us
I
to
try to
answer
lay the
your
trap. I'd be like,
question
oh,
of
you're
while we're
gonna.
laying, while you're like, yeah, like while you're saying like, okay, where are you going? Where are we going with that stuff? We are leaning in
Yes, you're
methodically and intentionally. And the way we believe it can happen also the fastest while being methodical and intentional is not trying to guinea pig it ourselves. We are
I love that.
not going to figure it out as we go.
Yep.
And if somebody said to me, no, do it and figure it out where as you go, I would say,
Yep.
we're not the best fit. And that's perfectly fine for me.
You're paying attention and you're listening. I think it's a good transition into the VPI data. So property management vendor performance index. We, a little bit of backstory on this if this is the first time you're hearing about it. So obviously not for you, but for the audience is, we our property managers, we wanted to surface the best property managers. And so one way we felt to do that was, all right, let's ask their clients to rate their experience with them. So that's great for marketing and sales. That's also, it's going to be something that's going to surface compelling data, right? Well, when you do that, we had this kind of aha moment because, well, wait a second, we know what tech stack and tools these property managers use. And banking being a very important tool service for a property manager, we can start to tie like, okay, let's look at the best property managers and what software and tools do they work with and how does that affect their outcomes and their ability to operate. And one of those things could be communication or reporting. If you've got a property manager that is using Chase Bank or something, maybe their communication and reporting might suffer. And so we started to really just look at the data. That's what was kind of the idea behind the VPI and enterprise. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, but enterprise number one results. I mean, 90s across the board. So I think to start just looking at NPS, I mean, a 92.4 or 9,
Yeah.
bad handwriting.
Let's go with 9.
Go to propertymanagement.com and validate that. But
let's just say 93.
that is I want to hear your thoughts on this, but
Yeah.
for people that don't, I used to not know what NPS was. Now I'm like obsessed with it, but it's basically the question 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this to, and how we framed it was to another property manager. And if you answer that at 9 or a 10, you're a promoter. There's a middle cohort that's a passive, and then there's a detractor, right? And so it's basically promoters minus detractors. So 100 is basically everyone's a promoter. You're as close as you can possibly be to everyone is a promoter. So like, how does that happen?
That's the goal. I think there's like, first of all, yes. Okay. It comes down to hiring, right?
Yep.
But it comes down to the person hiring,
Okay.
right? I don't actually love the term culture. I don't know why. I feel like
Okay.
it's like a buzzword.
I feel like we could dig in on that one. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's such a buzzword. I don't like buzzwords. So I
Like
guess
culture
that's
in the frame of like company culture.
yeah, company culture. Yeah. But I will say,
Like New Orleans has culture.
yes, I'm sorry. I should probably relate. Yeah, bad.
Yeah.
I should
Like
read
the
the
jazz
room there.
music and then
Yeah. No, but yes. So like company culture. I just feel like it's such a buzzword. I'm like,
Right.
oh, everyone create a nice culture, but like that can mean
easier said than
so
done. What's
many
that mean?
different things. Yeah.
Like unlimited PTO. That sounds good.
100%. Yeah. Oh, I'll take it. Doesn't matter anyway because I'm always working anyway. So
Yeah.
no, I think it's more about alignment.
Okay.
Everyone, it comes down to the people and then the alignment on we're not here to close transactions and close deals. We're here to retain customers, and we can only understanding why is that important?
Right.
Is it ingrained in you? Empathy is a huge thing. Don't get me started on empathy, but like empathy mixed with grit is that winning combination.
And
right?
so one number that stood out, because this is really, I mean, I honestly just, it makes it really easy for a conversation because I'll ask the hard questions too. And I maybe have one or two, but like when just off the positives, right? 32% higher support than the industry average. So this is over 1,000 survey responses. I'm sure next year we'll have 3,000 or 4,000, but that's a lot of responses. And you compared to 75, 80 other vendors, number one, 32% higher than the average. On the NPS, 26% higher, right? So I think to do that, my take, and tell me if I'm wrong, like to me, you've mentioned like relationship and I think the customer support piece, right? I think the support 92.1, I mean, it's 90s across the boards. Do you feel like it's as easy as just being available and building relationship?
Okay, I wish I had
Because maybe that's
phone.
the culture thing where it's like, oh, it's just so easy. You just like talk to people.
I wish I had my phone in here because when I was walking over here, I got a message from a client.
Okay.
If I were willing to bet probably at least 10 years, maybe. Anyway, so they've been with us a very long time, right? Also not someone who I talk to on a regular basis. And they messaged me about like the relationship. And they're like, I will never understand how you continue to be as involved as you are and how you're able to make this many people feel so complete. I wish
Yep.
I had so I could read it word for word. And you're available,
Do
blah,
you
blah.
have a
And
do you have a
here's the
clone
thing.
somewhere that we don't know about
No,
that
I
you
know.
like
No, that's the
duplicate
thing.
yourself?
My response was, this is the only reason why I brought it up was because my response was, it's not about picking up the phone every time. It's
Mm.
not a logical thing. Like it's a logistical thing. It's not about being available. I'm not available 24/7. Was there a time when I was? Yeah. By the way, don't do that to yourself. The
People who say
burnout
I
is
can't get
wild.
burnout, it's like
Yeah.
everyone can get
Yes.
burnout.
It's
It'll
about
just
being
like you'll fall off the cliff
intentional.
further.
Yeah. And it's about building the trust. Here's the thing. If I can't pick up your phone call right this second, you trust me.
Yeah.
It is ingrained in me to not let you down where I can
Well, and
control it.
trust is an instant, we love trust here at propertymanagement.com, but
Yeah.
like I think for someone to feel like they can call you, there's a reason why they feel like they can call you. A, they know you're going to
Yeah.
get shit done for them, right?
Yes.
But also
Well, that's where the grit comes in. Like,
right.
okay, this is also really hard. She's going to get it done, but that doesn't mean she's losing sleep over
Yeah,
it.
and that's not, and like the question, the category of question there we put as customer support.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very technology SaaS bucket, right?
Mhm.
But like customer support, I feel like oftentimes gets kind of downgraded to like, just answer the phone. But like what I'm hearing is it's not just answer the phone. It's like trust, it's grit, it's like being knowledgeable. It's,
Like you're an advisor.
right.
That's really the best way you think about it. You're like their advisor, right? I mean, the majority of my phone calls that come in throughout the day are just around like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What are your thoughts? Like, it's
Yep.
like, it just creates a different type of relationship. But at the end of the day, and this is where it does actually come back to the people of like understanding, we're here to service the customer first. We're not going to imagine these new customers and imagine we're not going to suffer. What is the stoic,
Yeah.
don't suffer imagined troubles, right? Like
Mm.
we're not going to suffer from any of that. We're going to deal with the situation head on, one at a time. We're not worried about those customers that are waiting in the wings. That's important. But guess what? The way that we treat our customers here today
Right.
and make them trust us and stick around, it's especially with banking.
Yeah.
There's so much turnover in banking. The fact that we have had less than 10% of turnover in 16 years out of several
Wow.
thousands of clients, that's unheard of in banking.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because we focus and we're saying like, listen, these people are going to create the new customers.
When we started the story, how long ago was that? Because that was like you guys weren't even into property management.
How long
banking.
ago was what?
Like when you first got started with Enterprise.
2010.
2010. We're 15 years and now it's several thousand
Yeah.
property management customers.
Yeah. But again, it's
'cause
not
there's,
like, well,
like-
you could be a lender and say several thousand. That means you did a transaction.
Yeah, that's
These
right.
are like where we stand today.
Ongoing relationship.
People don't leave. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, sure, there is a bucket of people that might leave for one flashy thing. But
Yep.
from a relationship perspective, I'm kind of like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
You're
like,
I
I
don't
kinda know
want
him.
you to be with me for credits are great. I don't want you to be with me just for the credits.
Right, right.
Because I don't want to, it is so much. I despise losing customers.
Yeah.
We have one of like the largest, like in our entire bank, we have the largest close ratio when it comes to bringing on new customers. But I don't even care. Like I don't want to lose my customers. And then the onboarding customers are like still a deal. There's still a relationship that you're trying to
think
build.
there's something. So I'm going to ask a hard question in a second. But I think that an interesting, I don't know, it just came to my mind because my life's been like real estate investing into property management and like what's the parallel to how this really successful company, this really successful bank is operating? Like what can you pull from that as an operator of a property management business, right? It's different businesses, but I feel like the thing that I'm hearing is like retention and relationship. I feel like so many property managers, as I was, right? Like admittedly, like, obsessed with growth, the next opportunity, but like being obsessed with the clients and like the tenants too, right? Because that ties into like retaining your clients. I think there's a lot to be said for like that grit and obsession in the areas that matter.
Yeah.
And it seems like Enterprise has that. Question just on kind of the harder questions. It's hard to find something negative or something but the one thing that kind of came through a couple, somewhat frequently was really about the statements. Mm-hmm. So they got the credits. Everybody loves the credits, but it sounds like there's a somewhat decent cohort that's like, I wish our statements were easier to read. So when you think, I think that question comes from just like the data and accessibility you guys were talking about earlier. For those people listening to this that are working with Enterprise already, how would you talk about, are you guys doing anything about that?
Yes. What's interesting, so this is like, I feel like a good point. Interesting is that I already knew the exact negative feedback. The one piece of negative
You're like,
feedback
he's gonna
I
ask a
already knew.
negative. He's like, there's one thing.
No, but I already knew. I already knew it was going to be
Yeah.
around. It's not actually the statements. It's about, just to clarify, it's about the credit statements, which is a
Yep.
different set of statements. We
Yep.
call them
That's right.
analysis
Credit.
statements.
I
Yeah,
put statements hard to read. It's
yeah,
credit statements, and
it
then
is. Yeah,
the same
it's like
people
under
would, yeah,
what you
they'd
have.
put
Yeah,
credit statements hard to read. Also want more credits. It's like, yeah, we do.
yeah.
Let's
Well,
go.
everyone wants more
Yeah,
credits.
get more
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
deposits.
yeah.
Let's go.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. There's ways to structure that. No, so I already knew that, and I think the reason why that's important to say is because my point here is that we're so in tune. We're already moving. We already know what that issue
Yep.
is because we listen. And that's where relationship management comes in. Can we figure it out, the day that you ask us to? No,
Right.
because there's processes and there's
Right.
calculations and there's regulators, there's all the things in place. It's more about, yeah, we technically could do it tomorrow. We could do maybe what someone else is doing, but is that sustainable? Again, all the
Right.
back to relationship. I only care. I will not implement something. I will not allow our team to implement
Yeah.
something that is not sustainable.
And I don't want a reactive banker.
Yeah.
You've made me feel
Yeah.
like, it's not a tech company that's like, fix it tomorrow, feature
Yeah.
release. It's a bank. It's really important to not move fast.
Right.
Like
And
you want to listen, and you want to move in the right direction, but moving quickly, I don't think that's necessarily like what we're actually trying to optimize for. But
exactly. It's like that comment around like someone, I'll never remember who it is, so don't ask me. So it's like a public, it actually may have been Jamie Dimon. I actually don't know, but don't quote me on that.
banking legend.
Yeah, totally. Love him. I met him once. Yeah, in London.
We need to hear that really
Yeah,
quick.
that
Let's
was
talk
really
about
cool.
that. But
Well,
make this point.
basically,
then
I
wanna
just
hear
had
about
to say like, hi, nice to meet you. But because he had so much security around him, it was just
Oh,
eating
wow.
breakfast
Yeah.
with his
I mean,
family
it's probably like the
next to me.
president or
Yeah,
something. Probably more security,
literally.
actually.
In that hotel, we had him, and then I'm sure we had multiple others, but we also had the oh my gosh, the shoot. He's from like Japan, shoot. Anyway, I'm gonna really butcher this, but essentially I swear I feel like Jamie Dimon had more security around him than
Yeah.
this guy.
I
I
would-
really
I would've
butchered
been-
that. I wish
I
I could
would've
tell
been-
you
no,
what
that's okay.
what
Like,
his title was. But
I would have
anyway.
been like, if I saw like, I don't know, like Elon Musk or something, I'd have been
Oh,
like,
I've also seen Elon.
I'd be like
Musk.
fanboying so
Yeah,
hard.
same.
What is
Elon
he?
Musk was
Is he
wild,
tall?
by the way.
Is he tall or short?
Who, Jamie or
Elon Musk. Like
Elon Musk is tall. Well,
He
I mean,
seems, like,
taller,
big and
taller than
tall.
I thought. Like
Yeah.
bulky. He was
Kinda
wild
barely,
because
yeah.
he had like SEAL team around him, and you would have never known they were SEAL team.
Yeah.
They looked like a bunch of frat boys sitting at a table.
Yeah.
He stands up, they boom.
Boom. Oh,
It's
wow.
like wild. Anyway, I don't know how we got about that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway, so I
anyway.
think Jamie Dimon had made a comment of like talking about fraud and not just like deposit, not just just fraud in banks in
Yep.
general and like where AI is coming and all that. And he said, I might butcher this, but it was like slow is smooth, smooth is intentional, intentional is safe.
Okay.
And it was basically a conversation around like, that's how your bank should react.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're not thinking, they're not like, oh, someone will figure it out. Believe me,
Yep.
in no world is a bank, anyone in a secure, heavily scrutinized bank saying someone will figure it out. They don't
Right.
they're like, no, we need to figure this out.
Right.
But you have to be intentional about it. And it's not just about, making the customer happy today. It's making sure the customer can rely and depend on that.
How can your customers think about like where you guys are going?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to focus on the credit part real
Yep.
quick. Back to what you're saying. So yes, we're listening. We already know the solution will be more technology based, but again, there will be thought and intention into that, right? And so
Right.
the answer is not fully, I would say the answer is not fully there today. There will be a combination by way of integrations also that you'll have by way of integrations into the PMS that you'll see things like that. But there will also be stuff within the bank as well where you don't
Yep.
need to rely on your PMS for that if you're not with one of those PMS. It's a bank-wide issue.
Well, I mean, I'll put you on the spot a
Property
little bit.
management
So
issue.
our customers, we're doing a kind of certification rollout where effectively it's, our profiles, Carfax of property management. So our profiles, I guess, are the Carfax report. So it's sort of the prove it moment for the property manager. Oftentimes using that in like sales marketing. It's like, hey, we have this verified data. We can prove we're really good at this. You can trust us. One area that like our customers have asked us to be able to surface that data is like, hey, we want to be able to sort of position ourselves as like, hey, we're handling your money in the right way. Similar to how a bank handles, money. So maybe you could work with propertymanager.com on surfacing some of the data on those profiles. Like, hey, we've got our triple tied trust account, whatever those things are. I feel like, are you guys integration open to like, are you able to focus on like wider level integration, or is it really just like the main property management systems?
I'll clarify what you mean by that.
Yep.
Meaning like, will we integrate with companies that are not property management focused?
Yeah. So like if
Or that are not a PMS, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like how could your client prove today that they have like the proper trust accounting setup? Could they prove that objectively? We'll frame it like that because that's what's happening, right? That's what we're trying to optimize for. Their client asks, okay, so I don't know, maybe they're an investor. What's your process around holding security deposits and owner reserves? And they're like, oh, well, we do this. We work at this bank called Enterprise. And then they're like, okay, can you prove that?
Yes. Okay. So this is where you really do have to this is where you really have to have a person, or at the very least, a person, whether even if it's not your banker, someone who understands banks and call sheets and
Yep.
call reports, because who's auditing all of that? Who's protecting the money? The FDIC, for instance, right?
Right.
There's audit reports from the FDIC that show that those accounts, for instance, pass-through accounts, right?
Yep.
If the bank isn't, if these accounts aren't in pass-through accounts, your bank did not set those accounts up, right?
Yep.
But
That's
the
right.
FDIC
That's what I
knows
did on
exactly.
accident.
Yeah,
I mean,
your regulator
yeah.
knows exactly what are pass-through accounts and what are not within your bank. That is the problem between like bigger banks versus smaller banks. Smaller banks haven't been through, they haven't even started sometimes being through, depending on how new they are, like
Yeah.
how much scrutiny they've been through. It's not that it takes you, we're obviously a publicly traded larger institution. You don't need to get there. It's just a matter of like the audits come as you get into it so they can
Yep.
see what you've been doing, right? But all of that is right. So
Right.
that is actually a perfect example of where in an AI world, where there's going to be a person that matters and where there's going to be an AI bot that matters.
Okay. That's cool. I can see that some cool things are going to be coming maybe from
Yeah.
Enterprise in the future.
But to answer your question real quick about are we open to integrations beyond the PMSs, we are an incredibly large bank that does property management. While it is one of the better, if not the best performing part of the deposit side of it, it's still, which is also what makes us pretty safe, it's still part of a very diversified bucket. We have integrations, right? So
Yep.
like, yes, to answer your question, yes, we do, because we already do that in other areas
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah.
that's cool. So let's transition into the lightning round. So
Okay.
Dylan kind of coined the lightning round for us. Some really good questions, very laid back. I'm terrible at it because I always want to dig into the answers, but I'll try to stay true to the real.
I'm like
right?
context queen.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right, we'll start off with what is your favorite tool or app that's not work related? It can be work related, but
This is going to be an embarrassing answer.
it's okay. Safe place.
Does it have to be like development?
It can be anything. It can be, I mean, you could say like, now you can't say if I say it, like you can say like Strava. You'd be like, I love Strava.
I don't even know
it
what
could
Strava is.
like running app. Yeah, it could literally
Okay.
be anything.
Okay. All right. Croissant.
What is it? I don't know what it
Okay,
is.
so croissant, you link it to your essentially like your emails, your Gmails. It's it's like a what do they call them? Not an attachment.
Yeah, like
Oh
an
God.
extension.
Yes, an extension. Yes.
Hey, we're a tech company.
And anything you buy, I think it's no secret that I love fashion and I love to buy things. Anything you buy that flows through that, or through any of the, you also can like use an extension into like other stores that you shop at, whatever. Any of that all flows into what's called the Croissant app, right?
Okay.
And so then, for the most part, all of it. And then as things, I have no idea what the algorithm is behind it. I have no idea. But as like you wear things, or you maybe got something, couldn't return it, whatever. But all of us throughout live, Croissant will go through and say like, hey, you bought this 4 years ago. If you still have it, we will pay you.
No way.
And
Okay.
you just send your clothes in. I am a shopaholic, first of all. But I also
Hey, you work hard. You work hard.
Thanks.
So.
I give away all of my stuff.
Yeah.
And this is like it. Instead, you're basically saying like, okay, you wore this for like 3 days and now you're over it.
Yeah.
They're gonna buy it from you.
It's almost like inventory tracking, but
100%.
like
I have
magic.
no idea what the algorithm is behind it, but it's actually a great way to also just earn like, it's like free money, because I'm like, I would have just given this. My husband begs to differ. It is not free money.
Yeah.
But it's like I was gonna give it away anyway. And some of the things are things that I'm like, I've had that for 4 years. Why does it want it today? It must be off like demand in your size or something.
I've been telling my wife, I'm like, I need less clothes. Like I really like the like your, or like I like 5 shirts that I like.
If only I was a man, I would have.
Yeah, I like, I want to mix it up a little bit, but it's like I look in my drawer and I'm like, all right, I want like one shirt, and if it's not there, I'm just like, why do I have these other 17 that I literally never wear? So
and then it gets confusing.
My stuff
like,
wouldn't be as valuable as yours. If
no, but that's the
I'm
interesting
gonna tell my wife
part.
about it. Yeah.
No, I swear to God, that's the interesting part. Like it's like Lululemon stuff. It's not like, believe me, no one's buying like my Valentinos.
Yeah.
It's just, it's wild. And like it is actually interesting. I'll
is
show
it
you after this. Croissant. Like croissant.
Yeah.
Like it will be like $15 for this pair of pants that you spent $100 on. But still, like it all, and all you do is you just ship it in. And then they give you money back either in form of cash, or they say, here, you can apply a little bit more to like this company.
Could we call it credits? Credits?
I mean, yeah,
we'll tie it in. All right.
I love it.
I bought the final thing on this. I bought this one jacket that I thought was so cool. I'm like, it's probably this is telling, but it's like my most expensive clothing item, and it was
Yeah.
like $700.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
not
that's
that,
good.
and it's not
Yeah.
crazy,
Clothing. Yeah.
but I've literally worn it twice because I'm like, I don't know why maybe I should just
Yeah.
be more confident
Because it
wearing
was a
one.
trend thing. You
Yeah,
probably bought it off a trend.
yeah, and I'm like, I should probably let that go, and maybe that's the app to do it. So, all right,
100%.
lightning round.
Okay.
The thunderstorm has left. Now it's back. All right. So, book or podcast that you would suggest, and this, like, what would you suggest, book or podcast that would be interesting, maybe to the operators out there, or
Oh my
just
God.
whatever you like. It doesn't matter.
1000% Amazon Principles.
Okay. Is that a recent book? That one's
I
yeah.
only recently read it because somebody told me to read it.
Okay.
So Scott Brady read it, sent me this like basically report on it.
Okay.
And it's so like the way that he laid it out, it so much resonated with like the way that we do business and what's important to us in relationship management and, like you said, high NPS, whatever. And I was like, I need to read this. And I read it and I can't get enough. Like I might actually read it again. I love it.
that. All right. One word to describe, this one's really intense. One word to describe the future of banking in property management.
Methodical.
It's great. And want to elaborate? You don't have to, because I did say one word.
No, one word.
Love that. All right. Let's do a final question. This one's easy. How can people, I feel like everybody already knows you, but how can people get in contact with you if they need to? Or enterprise just in general? If someone hears this, they're like, whoa, I'm Matt with Chase Bank and I don't think my stuff's set up.
Yeah.
How do they reach out to you?
Yeah. Is it egotistical of me to just say ask someone? No, I'm just joking. No, honestly, I really do operate best in email. Yes. If you go to our website, you go to our property management section, I'm on there. I mean, our whole team is on there, but I'm on there. My email is pretty simple, DiSarro@enterprisebank.com.
Love that. All right. Well, anything else to add? I mean, this has been a great conversation. Very excited. We're a couple more days left at the conference, but this has been fun.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so fun.